Kia ora, I'm Erin J. Doyle. Welcome to my channel. My plan for this video fell apart, and then plan B has failed several times in a row. Plan B required a big chunk of silence, and the neighbourhood's being too noisy right now and I'm losing my marbles. So rather than going insane, I thought I would just change plans entirely and do a tag video. It's much easier to just edit the noise out if I do that. So here we go. I'm going to be doing the Imposter Syndrome Authortube tag. As per usual, I will have a link to the original creators video down in the description, as well as a list of the questions in case you feel like going and checking them out or doing the video yourself, in which case do let me know down in the comments so I can go check out your video and like it and let the algorithm know you're awesome, etc. So question 1, what is your current occupation? I am a molecular ecologist. Usually in my experience when I meet a molecular ecologist, which for some reason I actually find quite hard to say, they're usually an ecologist who has picked up some genetics. I'm actually the other way around. My background is microbial ecology and molecular genetics at like undergrad level, and then at postgrad and researcher level I went into molecular ecology, applying that molecular knowledge to ecological questions. Mostly I do DNA barcoding. Question 2. Between your fiction and your real life, which one is weirder? Only because of the fantasy elements, I'm going to say my fiction. But if we went non-fantasy, oh, my real life's pretty weird. Like, I'm planning more than one vaguely autobiographical book because of the weirdness of my existence. But, you know, there are no magical powers or dragons or aliens, etc. in the real life story, so we're going to have to go with the fiction. Question 3. Do you believe in self-inserts, and if so, how do fictional you and IRL you differ? I don't like self-inserts. I think, for me at least, because I don't want to keep this too just for myself. I don't want to like criticize other writers and their process and things, but for me I find if I'm putting a real person, whether it's me or someone I know, in a story, I'm immediately restricted by what they can and can't do, because it seems like, well, would they do this or would I do that, because the character's kind of real. I think I get more freedom by having a fictional character. That being said, my main character of the story that I just finished writing is probably as close to a self-insert as I'm likely to get. She is a fictional character basically in my life. Like, I have taken some notable experiences in travel and places from my life, taken me out and put this fictional character in, and in order to get her to make the same decisions and go on the same journey that I did, I needed to give her a lot in common with me. So I think she probably reads as a self-insert, but I actually don't consider her to be one. And that might just be my perspective, like maybe people who know me can't differentiate her from me, but I really do, because I find that she is much less sure of herself than I am. She's married, she's an only child, she is more advanced in her career. She is an artist in addition to a scientist, but then she's a scientist, so it kind of seems like she might be me. But yeah, she's got a whole lot of life experiences that I don't have, and vice versa, I guess. But yeah, she is very heavily based on me in that she needed to have a whole bunch of experiences in common, but I still consider her a very different person. So yeah, maybe a weird grey area. Maybe she is a blatant self-insert and I'm lying to myself. But in general, I don't think I like them as a concept. Anyway, I'm going to move on because I think I could go around and around on this and debate with myself for ages. just because there's a grey area with this one character. Number 4. Was there a moment at which you felt you had graduated from aspiring author to author? I think for me, it was when I had something published. Like, this was, right, I am the author of this published text. That seemed like a very clean-cut way of deciding if I'm an author or not. However, in recent years, I have started using the word poet instead of author, because I feel like the word author just means like you have authored the text. It doesn't tell you anything about the text, but I feel like when we say author, we kind of mean of a book, and the things I have authored are individual poems. So yeah, like I feel a bit more comfortable these days with the word poet than author, and I feel like I would start referring to myself as an author more confidently when I've published a book, because it would just feel like a more accurate representation of what I am or what it is that I do. I feel at the moment if I say to someone I'm an author, they're going to assume a book, not individual poems scattered across many journals. Number 5. If you could be financially independent but you could never write again, would you take it? No. To me, the major perk of financial independence, apart from like stress reduction, is to have time to write. That is what I would want financial independence for. If I wasn't writing, I would want to be being in the laboratory doing sciencey things. So if I gave up writing, then the financial independence would be irrelevant because I'd still be going into the day job anyway. But I actually find even just hearing that sentence, like, you know, would you give up writing, actually almost gives me like this little tiny microscopic spark of physical distress, because I'm not independent from the writing. Like, I have been telling stories since before I could write, before I could spell my own name. I can't imagine separating myself out from that, and while I could potentially take writing as a very literal thing and say, well, I would just tell my stories, the reality is I think that my stories are too big and complex for an oral narrative. I find that when I'm talking to people about my stories, they get confused and distracted. You know, some super supportive people just get up and fuck off in the middle of what I'm saying because they legitimately do not care about the words that you are saying when you're telling a story. But if you can give them a, you know, a completed book, then it has that, you know, veneer of legitimacy. So instead of you talking nonsense, they can walk away. They're like, oh yes, an actual real story, and we'll sit down and read it. So I think the drive to create stories is an inseparable part of myself. It is a constant. The desire to be written is the desire to be taken seriously by others and to have others hear what I have to say properly, and I don't think that could ever happen through any other medium. So I think if I gave up writing, even if I tried to use a different medium to try and communicate these ideas, I think I would be signing up for a life of almost like being incomplete or unheard, because I know that people don't listen to my stories when I'm telling them, and I'm just kind of, I guess, coasting along on the dream that people will take my stories a bit more seriously when they're on like physical paper. Maybe I'm lying to myself, but yeah, the idea of not communicating my stories is just, yeah, almost physically painful to me. No, 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 no. Anyway, moving on. Number 6. Have there been any words of criticism that hurt you when you got them, but are hilarious in hindsight? Not about my writing. About me? Sure! Like, I have been bullied for some really fucking hilarious shit. But about my writing? No, I don't think so. Number 7. Do you have a favourite word? If so, what is it? I have 2. Both just because of how they sound, not because of what they mean. So one is waffle and the other is crack. I love those as a set of kind of opposite words. Like, they just sound so different and they're just such good sounds. So those are my favourite. Number 8. What is the nicest thing anyone has ever said about your writing? I really struggle to pick favourites, so trying to pick like the nicest thing is like, oh God, because I've had a couple of really amazing validating moments. Like, I had a woman I'd never met before run across a car park to throw her arms around me because the day before she had been at a public reading where I read a piece of my work out loud. Like, that was pretty cool. But I think probably my favourite of late is admittedly from my mother, so you know, we expect nice things. My mother doesn't swear. I take that to have been a success. Okay, number 9. If Tattoos of the Future featured one of your quotes, which would it be? From my published work, I honestly don't think anyone would get any of that published tattooed on themselves. It just doesn't have the right, I don't know, energy or meaning. A lot of my poetry is just general description with limited meaning. There's not a lot of like simile or metaphor or anything like that. So I don't see my work to date getting tattooed on anyone. From my Camino book, which I've just finished editing, I would think I'm first on the lifeboat. Maybe, yeah. And number 10, if you could wish away one literary cliche, which I can't say, literary, and number 10, if you could wish away one literary cliche, which would it be? I mean, every cliche has its use. I mean, they only become cliches because they're excellent and then we milk the shit out of them. I'm gonna go with the love triangle. I find, generally speaking, I'm sure there are exceptions, but in my experience, you always know who she's gonna pick. So it just feels like a waste of time to me. And then there's usually a lot of miscommunication as a way of, you know, keeping her and like the one she's obviously going to pick separated, or he's toxic as fuck, in which case you're like, you know she's gonna pick him, but then you're angry at her because she's obviously going to be an idiot, you can just see it. So yeah, I guess that's what I would be done with. So those are the questions. Feel free to answer any of the questions that you like down in the comments. I'd be interested in what your answers are. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!